My wife handed me a pregnancy test backstage at Grace Community Church right after I finished preaching a sermon on living truth in marriage, and I knew immediately I couldn't be the father. Let me back up. That Sunday morning started like any other. November in Franklin, Tennessee. The sanctuary was packed, all 2,800 seats filled, plus another 15,000 people watching the live stream from 4 states away. I'd been senior pastor at Grace Community for 12 years, built it from 200 members to what it is now. Every Sunday, I stood in that pulpit and preached truth. That's what people came for. That's what I promised them. That morning, my sermon was on integrity in marriage. Standing in this pulpit means every word from my mouth must be true, including my life, I told the congregation. You don't just preach faithfulness, you live it, in public and in private, when people are watching and when they're not. The worship team was behind me on stage, 60 people. Katie, my wife, was leading. She always led worship director for the past 8 years. She had this voice that could crack your heart open. That morning, she was glowing, radiant, her hands raised during the final song, tears streaming down her face. I thought it was the Holy Spirit. I was wrong. After service, I came backstage. The second service wasn't for another 45 minutes. Volunteers were setting up in the hallway, coffee station, welcome desk, kids check-in. The sound tech was in the booth behind the glass window, adjusting levels. Katie was waiting for me by the dressing room door. She was smiling. That huge, beautiful smile. She held out her hand. "Daniel," she said, "look." It was a pregnancy test, wrapped in tissue paper, like a gift. The test was white plastic, one of those digital ones, clear blue. The little screen said pregnant 5 to 6 weeks in clear letters. The pink cap was still on. She'd wrapped it carefully, like it was precious. My first thought wasn't joy. My first thought was, that's impossible. "Danny, can you believe it?" She was crying now. Happy tears, or what looked like happy tears. God answered our prayers. I stared at that test. The plastic was light in my hand. When I set it on the counter, it made a hollow sound. 5 to 6 weeks. I counted backward. Late September, early October, that's when Katie was in Nashville. Recording sessions, she'd called them, for her worship album. She'd spent 6 weeks there last spring and summer working with a producer named Ryan Colton, contemporary Christian music guy. Big name in the industry, they'd made an album together. Breakthrough. We sold it in our church bookstore. The recording sessions, I was leading the men's retreat in Georgia that week. I remember because Abby, our daughter, called me every night. She was nervous about starting her junior year. I was 5 hours away, hiking trails with 50 men from the church, teaching them about biblical manhood. Katie was in Nashville. "Aren't you excited?" Katie was looking at me now. Her smile was starting to fade. "Daniel, say something. I should tell you something I've never told anyone except Katie, something from a long time ago. When I was 12 years old, I got the mumps. Bad case. I was in the hospital for a week. The doctor told my parents, told me actually because my dad thought I should know, that there were complications. That when I grew up, I might not be able to have children. Might was the word he used. But Katie and I learned the truth after Abby was born. After we tried for more kids for years. After the tests. After the specialist appointments. The specialist was very clear. Very kind, but very clear. "Pastor Shepard," he said, "the mumps caused permanent sterility. I'm sorry, the damage is irreversible. There's no medical possibility of conception." Katie cried that day, held me in the parking lot of the clinic. I thought she was grieving with me. I thought we were united in that loss. Now I wonder if she was calculating. I looked at her standing there backstage. The pregnancy test in my hand, 5 to 6 weeks, Nashville in September. "Danny?" Her voice had an edge now. "Why aren't you happy?" "I need to think," I said. That was 3 days ago. Since then, I've learned some things I wish I didn't know, things that make that pregnancy test make sense in the worst possible way. If you've ever had a memory completely rewrite itself, where something you thought was love turns out to be something else entirely, just type rewrite in the comments. You're not alone in that feeling. Jennifer Morrison is our church secretary. She's been with us for 6 years. Quiet woman, methodical. She handles all the administrative work, all the expense reports, all the filing. 2 days after Katie showed me that test, Jennifer knocked on my office door. "Pastor Dan," she said, "I need to show you something. I don't want to, but I have to." She set 3 things on my desk. First, a hotel receipt, thermal paper, the kind that fades if you leave it in sunlight. This one was already curling at the edges. When I unfolded it, it made that crackling sound thermal paper makes. The Omni Nashville, room 1847, 2 nights, May 16th to 18th. The charges were itemized. Room service, $142. Dinner for 2. Minibar, $38. Total, $847. Katie submitted this by accident, Jennifer said quietly. Mixed in with the legitimate recording studio receipts, I was processing the expense reimbursements, and I saw the date, May 16th to 18th. That was during the recording sessions, the solo recording sessions. The receipt smelled faintly of perfume. Katie's perfume. She must have carried it in her purse for months. Second, a recording schedule, single page, glossy office paper, color-coded calendar showing May and June 2024. Yellow highlighter marked Katie's studio sessions, 19 studio days total, 8 of them marked overnight session. The highlighter had that distinct chemical smell, sharp, clinical. Ryan's assistant emailed this for invoice purposes. Jennifer said, "I thought you should see how many days she was actually there." 19 days, 8 overnights. The men's retreat was in Georgia. I was never in Nashville. Third, the worship album, Katie's album, Breakthrough by Katie Shepherd. I'd seen this album hundreds of times. It was in our bookstore. People bought it after service. Katie signed copies. The cover photo shows Katie and Ryan in the recording studio, both wearing headphones. Katie at the microphone, eyes closed, hands raised. Ryan at the mixing board behind her, leaning forward. His hand is on her shoulder. I'd always thought that touch was professional, mentorly, producer supporting his artist. Now I saw it differently. The intimacy, the familiarity, the way her body leaned back into his touch. Jennifer pointed to the liner notes, that thin, glossy paper that slides out of the CD case. "Look at the acknowledgments," she said. I read it. Most people got a line. Their names, a quick thanks. But Ryan got a full sentence. "To Ryan Colton, for the journey we took together, your guidance changed everything." The journey. That word echoed differently now. Jennifer was crying. "I'm sorry, Pastor Dan, I'm so sorry, but you needed to know." I stared at these 3 pieces of evidence on my desk, the hotel receipt, the recording schedule, the album with its thank you for the journey. And I knew exactly what had happened in Nashville. The pregnancy test said 5 to 6 weeks. That puts conception in late September, right when Katie went back to Nashville for what she called final mixing sessions. 2 weeks. She said she needed 2 weeks for the final tracks. I was here, leading Bible study, counseling couples, preaching on Sundays. She was there. And now she's pregnant. Jennifer left my office. I sat there alone with the evidence. The thermal paper, the glossy calendar, the CD case with its testimony to a journey. I should have gone home. Should have confronted Katie immediately. Instead, I sat there and thought about my father. My dad was a pastor too. Small church in Alabama. He resigned when I was 14. There was a scandal. I never knew the full details. My mom wouldn't talk about it, but I knew enough. Something about truth and lies. About making a choice that cost him everything. I have his resignation letter, framed, hung it on the side wall of my office where congregants wouldn't see it. The frame has a crack in the corner of the glass. The letter is typed on an actual typewriter. You can see where some letters hit harder than others. Dated June 1998. I lifted it off the wall. The frame creaked. The old paper smelled musty. "I can no longer serve this congregation with integrity," he wrote. "The truth must come first, even when it costs me everything I've built. I resign effective immediately." His signature below was shaky. I'd spent my whole adult life trying not to be like my father, building Grace Community to prove that I could succeed where he failed, that I could maintain integrity and keep my church. Now I understood. He didn't fail. He just chose truth over comfort, and I was about to have to make the same choice. That night, Katie was waiting for me in the church conference room. She wasn't alone. There was a man with her, suit and tie, leather briefcase. Attorney, I realized immediately. "Daniel," Katie said. Her voice was cold now. No more tears, no more smiles. "We need to talk." She slid a document across the table. Pale green paper, legal cardstock. Tennessee Department of Health Form VS-24, Voluntary Declaration of Paternity. The state seal was embossed at the top. I could feel it with my fingertips. Raised letters, official. Yellow highlighter marked 3 signature lines. My signature, 3 times. A pen was already positioned, silver, heavy. "This is a birth certificate acknowledgement," the attorney said. He had the voice of someone who does this for a living. Smooth, professional. "It's a formality. Tennessee law presumes paternity when a couple is married. You just need to sign." "Just sign," Katie echoed. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd been married to for 14 years. The woman who led worship every Sunday with her hands raised and tears on her face. The woman who wrote daily devotionals on Instagram for 48,000 followers. The woman who'd had an affair and was now demanding I claim another man's child as mine. "I know," I said quietly. Her face didn't change. "Know what?" "I know about Nashville, about Ryan, about the hotel, about all of it." For just a second, maybe half a second, something flickered in her eyes, then it was gone. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The hotel receipt, the recording schedule, 8 overnight sessions. Katie, I wasn't born yesterday." The attorney cleared his throat. "Mr. Shepard, whether or not you have suspicions doesn't change the legal situation. Your wife is pregnant, you're married, the state requires The state requires truth," I said. "And the truth is that baby isn't mine." Katie leaned forward. When she spoke, her voice was ice. "Sign this before Christmas Eve service, Daniel, or I'll announce my pregnancy from the worship stage. I'll tell them you're refusing to support your child. I'll tell them you're abandoning us." She paused. "Think about what that will do to Abby. Think about what it will do to this church, to everything you've built." The attorney tapped the form with his pen. It made a hollow sound against the cardstock. "Mr. Shepard, you have until December 15th. That's 10 days. After that, we'll have to pursue other legal channels." Katie stood up, smoothed her dress. When she looked at me, there was nothing in her eyes I recognized. "I'll see you at home," she said, "assuming you still consider it home." They left. I sat there alone in that conference room, the birth certificate form in front of me, those 3 yellow highlighted signature lines. 10 days. In 10 days, it would be December 15th, a week before Christmas Eve, the biggest service of the year, 2,800 people in the sanctuary, another 15,000 watching online, Katie on stage leading worship, hands raised, me in the pulpit preaching about truth, and a lie on official state documents with my signature on it. I picked up my phone, called the one person I knew I could trust. "Marcus," I said when he answered, "I need your help." Pastor Marcus Webb has been at Grace Community longer than I have. He was here when it was 200 people in a rented gymnasium. He's 62 now, elder, mentor, the closest thing I have to a spiritual father since my own dad died 5 years ago. I told him everything: the pregnancy test, the medical impossibility, the hotel receipt, the recording schedule, Katie's ultimatum. And she had an attorney with her? Marcus asked. Full legal threat, signed by December 15th, or she announces from the stage. We were in my office, late. The church was empty, except for the night security guard. Through my window, I could see the sanctuary lights dimmed. That pulpit where I'd stood that morning, preaching about truth in marriage. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then, what would you tell your congregation if they came to you with this? That question hit me like a fist. I'd tell them to tell the truth, I said, no matter the cost. Then you have your answer. Marcus, it's not that simple. There's Abby. She's 16. This will destroy her. And the church, Christmas Eve, is in 3 weeks. Our biggest service. If this becomes public, Marcus said gently, people will see what real integrity looks like. They'll see a pastor who practices what he preaches, even when it costs him everything. Or they'll see a pastor who couldn't keep his own house in order, who lost his wife, There was a knock on the door. Todd Harrison, board chairman, major donor. He's the reason we could afford the new worship center. He owns 3 car dealerships in the Nashville area. Successful, connected. The kind of man who's used to solving problems with money and influence. Daniel, he said, we need to talk. Board meeting, now. Marcus and I followed him to the conference room. The whole board was there, 7 members, all waiting. Todd didn't waste time. Jennifer came to me this morning, he said, told me about the situation with Katie, with the baby. My stomach dropped. Jennifer had no right. Jennifer did exactly what she should have done. She brought it to church leadership. Todd slid something across the table. The church directory photo proof. Glossy 8x10. The Shepherd family in matching cream sweaters. Blue background. Esther 2010 printed at the bottom. Katie, me, Abby, and Caleb. My stepson from Katie's first marriage. We looked perfect, happy. The photographer called me yesterday, Todd said, wanted to know if we should add baby number 3 coming 2025 to your family photo. I told him to wait. He looked at me. His face was all business. Daniel, I'm going to be direct. This is a mess, but it's a mess we can manage. Katie's pregnant. You're her husband. Tennessee law is on your side. On her side, technically. You sign the form. The baby comes. 6 months from now, nobody remembers the timeline. A year from now, you have a growing family and a growing church. You want me to lie on a legal document. I want you to protect this church. Todd's voice got harder. Do you know how many volunteers we have for the Christmas production? 60. Do you know how many families are bringing unsaved relatives to that service? Hundreds. Do you know what happens to all of that if this becomes a scandal? It becomes a testimony to truth, Marcus said quietly. Todd didn't even look at him. Marcus, with all due respect, this is about stewardship. We have 2,800 people who depend on this church. Marriages we're counseling, addicts we're helping, kids in our youth group. You want to blow all of that up because of one personal situation? One lie, I said, one signature. Todd leaned forward. Daniel, I've known you for 8 years. You're a good pastor, a good man, but you're thinking about this wrong. This isn't about you. It's about the kingdom, about what God can do through this church. Sign the paper. Handle the marriage privately. Keep the ministry intact. I looked around the table. 4 board members were nodding. 2 looked uncomfortable but silent. Only Marcus spoke. Todd, we cannot ask our pastor to sign a legal lie. That's not what this church stands for. Todd didn't even look at him. Marcus, sit down. This is about protecting what we built. No, Marcus said. He was standing now. This is about protecting our integrity. Without that, we have nothing. We have a vote, Todd said. All in favor of Pastor Daniel signing the paternity acknowledgement to protect the church's reputation and ministry effectiveness? 4 hands went up. Opposed? Marcus, one other elder. That was it. Todd looked at me. You have your answer, Daniel. Sign the form. Move forward. We'll support you. The meeting ended. Everyone filed out except Marcus. "I'm sorry," he said. "They voted for me to lie. They voted out of fear. Fear of change. Fear of loss. Fear of what truth costs." Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. "But you know what the right choice is. You've always known." I drove to Nashville the next day, alone. I needed to see Ryan Colton face to face, needed to look him in the eye. His studio was in a renovated warehouse in East Nashville, expensive, sleek, the kind of place where Grammy-nominated albums get made. The receptionist tried to stop me. "Mr. Colton is in a session. Tell him Pastor Daniel Shepard is here. Tell him it's about Katie." She picked up the phone. 2 minutes later, Ryan came out. He looked exactly like his photos, mid-40s, good-looking in that Christian music industry way. Expensive jeans, designer t-shirt, the kind of guy who makes worship music and drives a Tesla. "Pastor Shepard," he said. His voice was careful, controlled. "This is unexpected. We need to talk, now." He led me to his office. Gold records on the walls, Christian music awards, a whole wall dedicated to artists he'd produced. Katie's album cover was there. Breakthrough by Katie Shepard. He sat behind his desk, didn't offer me a chair. "I assume this is about Katie," he said. "She's pregnant." His face didn't change, not a flicker. He'd been expecting this conversation. "I'm sorry to hear about your marital troubles," he said. "Cut it. I know about the hotel, the overnight sessions, all of it. That baby is yours and you know it." He stood up, walked to the window. When he turned back, his voice was ice. "That's quite an accusation, Pastor." "It's not an accusation. It's a fact. And you need to take responsibility. You need to..." "I need to do nothing." Ryan's professional mask cracked. "You want to prove something? Prove it. You're the husband. Tennessee law presumes paternity. That's your problem, not mine." "That's your child." "Allegedly." He smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "And, Pastor, even if it was, and I'm not admitting anything, do you really think I'm going to destroy my career over this? I have a reputation, a brand, labels I work with, churches that book me for worship conferences." "You're a coward." "I'm realistic." Ryan walked to the door, opened it. "I'm sorry about your marriage, Pastor Shepard, truly, but Katie and I were just colleagues, studio chemistry. These things happen in the music industry. If you and your wife have problems, that's between you two. Your name needs to be on that birth certificate." Ryan's voice went deadly quiet. "You file anything against me, anything, and I will bury you in legal motions. I have lawyers on retainer that make more in a day than you make in a month. Your daughter, Abby, right? Her future, her reputation, her college applications, all of that dies in depositions and court filings. Is that what you want?" I lunged at him. I actually did. My hands were reaching for his collar when I caught myself. Stopped, breathed. Ryan didn't even flinch. He'd been ready for it. "Get out of my studio," he said. "And Pastor, stay out of Nashville. This is my city." I drove home. 5 hours. The whole way, my hands shook on the steering wheel. That night, I couldn't sleep, couldn't pray, couldn't do anything except sit in my office and stare at that cracked frame on the wall. My father's resignation letter. I took it down. The frame creaked. The old paper smelled musty when I opened it. I can no longer serve this congregation with integrity. The truth must come first, even when it costs me everything I've built. His signature was shaky. I'd always thought that shake meant weakness, fear, failure. Now I knew better. That shake was courage. The physical manifestation of choosing the hard right over the easy wrong, of signing your name to truth even when your hand doesn't want to move. My father gave up everything. His church, his salary, our house. We had to move into my grandmother's basement. My mom's respect. She divorced him 2 years later. Every relationship he'd built. All for truth. I'd been so angry at him, thought he'd destroyed our family, thought he'd failed. But he saved us. He saved our integrity. I set the frame on my desk, looked at those shaky letters. Maybe courage runs in families. Maybe it skips a generation. Maybe there was a knock. Late, past 11, Jennifer. Her face was pale. Pastor Dan, I found something in the copy room. Katie left it there. I think she forgot it. I shouldn't have looked, but She held out a leather-bound journal. Katie's prayer journal. I'd seen her write in it 100 times. At church, at coffee shops, always making sure people saw her spending time with the Lord. The cover had an embossed cross, gold leaf. The leather smelled like her perfume. You need to read page 47, Jennifer whispered, and page 63, and all of May and June. She left. I opened the journal. The pages made that soft rustling sound, her handwriting, careful, rounded. The kind of script she used for spiritual things. May 15th. Met with Ryan today about the album. He understands me in ways Daniel never could. Daniel is always so focused on the church, on the congregation, on being Pastor Dan. Ryan sees me, the woman, not just the worship leader. We talked for hours after the session about dreams, about what we really want from life. I feel alive when I'm with him. God must have brought him into my life for a reason. My hands were shaking. May 28th. Stayed late at the studio again. Ryan ordered dinner. We didn't even touch the recording equipment, just talked. And then, I know this is complicated. I know I'm married, but what if this is God's way of showing me there's more to life? What if Daniel isn't my soulmate after all? June 10th. Last night with Ryan I can't even write it, but I don't feel guilty. That's the strange thing. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. If there's a baby from this, and I know the timing is right, maybe that's God's way of giving me a fresh start. A new beginning. Daniel is so focused on the church, he'll never even question it. And if he does, well, Tennessee law is on my side. I've looked it up. My vision blurred. June 24th. Album is finished. Back to Franklin tomorrow. Ryan and I agreed this has to be our secret. He has his career. I have my ministry. But we'll always have Nashville, always have this. The album is called Breakthrough for a reason. This was my breakthrough into who I really am, into what I really want. Daniel will never understand, but that's okay. I don't need him to. September 30th, 3 days before she told me she was pregnant. The Christmas service is perfect timing. 3 weeks away, pregnancy announcement during worship. The congregation will think it's a miracle baby. They'll celebrate. They'll think God blessed our marriage. I'll be untouchable. Daniel will have no choice but to sign. He won't want to embarrass himself in front of 2,800 people. And if he tries to fight it, well, the board won't let him destroy the church over his ego. I closed the journal, set it on my desk next to my father's resignation letter. She'd planned everything, every step, used God language to justify it, wrote about affair and manipulation in her prayer journal like she was writing devotionals. The embossed cross on the cover caught the light, mocked me. Pastor Marcus was right. What would I tell my congregation? I'd tell them that grace without truth isn't grace. It's just enabling lies in Jesus' name. I was still sitting there when Caleb came home. My stepson, 18 now, Katie's son from her first marriage. He'd been living with us since he was 10, since his biological father stopped showing up. We'd never been close. Not really. He tolerated me. I tried to be a father figure. It never quite worked. He walked past my office, stopped, came back. "You look like hell," he said. "Long day." He stood in the doorway, something in his face, something I couldn't read. "I heard Mom on the phone," he said quietly. "Last Christmas, late at night, I went downstairs for water. She was in the kitchen, thought everyone was asleep. She was talking to someone, laughing, flirting. I heard her say a name. Ryan. My chest tightened. I told myself I imagined it," Caleb continued. His voice was getting louder, angrier. I was so desperate for this family to be real, to be different from my bio dad's mess. So I pretended I didn't hear it. But I did, didn't I? She's been cheating the whole time. Caleb, and you're going to sign that paper, aren't you? The paternity thing. You're going to pretend that baby is yours. You're going to make this whole fake family even more fake. He grabbed something off the hallway table. The USB drive, church branded, silver with our logo. The one with all my sermons archived. 52 weeks, 4 of them specifically on marriage integrity. He threw it at me. It hit my desk with a metallic clink. How can you preach this and then live a lie? His voice cracked. I've listened to these sermons, Daniel. All of them. You talk about truth, about integrity, about being the same person in private that you are in public. And now you're going to sign your name to something you know isn't true. It's complicated. It's not complicated. It's simple. You're as fake as she is. Caleb, I came to live with you because I thought this family was different. He was shouting now. I thought Christians actually meant what they said. I thought you were different from my dad who walked out. But you're all just performers. You put on your pastor face and preach about truth and then go home and live whatever lie is most convenient. He was crying now. This 18-year-old who never showed emotion, who'd built walls after his father abandoned him. I've been living in a fake family for a whole year, he said, knowing, suspecting, hoping I was wrong. But I wasn't wrong, was I? He left, slammed his door upstairs. I sat there with the USB drive on my desk, next to the prayer journal, next to my father's letter. If you've ever been told to stay quiet to protect the institution, to keep a lie going for the greater good, type speak in the comments. Because sometimes silence is the biggest lie of all. And if you've ever been the person watching hypocrisy from the inside, like Caleb, type watching. Being seen matters. It was almost midnight when I heard footsteps on the stairs, soft, hesitant. Abby, my daughter, 16, the light of my life, the one pure, good thing in this mess. She stood in my office doorway. Her eyes were red. Dad, I heard Caleb yelling. What's going on? I should have lied, should have protected her, should have said everything was fine. But I looked at my father's letter, at the prayer journal, at everything on my desk, and I couldn't do it. Come here, sweetie. She sat down. I showed her the letter. My father's resignation. She'd never seen it before, never knew I kept it. Your grandfather was a pastor too, I said. He faced an impossible choice, truth or comfort. He chose truth. It cost him everything. I was angry at him for years, thought he was weak, thought he failed. And now? Now I know he was brave. Abby picked up the prayer journal. What's this? Your mom's. She opened it, started reading. I watched her face change, confusion, understanding, horror, betrayal. She read for 10 minutes, flipping pages, reading entry after entry. Her hands started shaking. Dad, she whispered, this can't be real. Mom wrote this about having an affair, about planning to trick you. I'm sorry, baby girl. I'm so sorry. She kept reading, found the September 30th entry, the one about the Christmas service, about making me sign. When she looked up, her face was destroyed. I wrote my college application essay about you and Mom, she said. Her voice was small, childlike. About how your marriage proved love was real, about growing up in a pastor's home and seeing what faithful love looks like. I submitted it last month to 6 schools. Abby, and now I have to tell them my whole essay was a lie. She was crying. My family isn't what I said it was. We're just broken like everyone else. I pulled her close. She sobbed against my shoulder. If Mom can lie and worship, she choked out, leading thousands of people with her hands raised, singing about Jesus, then how do I know any of it is real, Dad? How do I know faith is real? How do I know you're real? That question broke me completely. I held my daughter while we both cried, the prayer journal open on the desk. The commissioning papers, my pastoral oath from 2010, I solemnly swear to shepherd this flock with truth, next to her mother's calculated betrayal. Baby girl, I finally said, right now I'm choosing truth over everything, even over keeping you comfortable, and that's how you know I'm real. What do you mean? I'm not signing that paper. I'm not claiming another man's child. I'm not going to stand in that pulpit and live a lie. But Christmas Eve, the service, everyone will know. Everyone will see what real integrity looks like, even when it costs everything. She pulled back, looked at me. Her eyes were still full of tears, but something else was there too. You're really not going to sign it? No. Even though you'll lose everything? I'd rather lose everything with the truth than keep anything with a lie. Abby looked at the prayer journal, at my father's letter, at the pastoral oath. Mom's going to destroy you, she said quietly. Maybe, but she can't destroy the truth. And she can't destroy what I'm teaching you right now. Standing in this pulpit means every word from my mouth must be true, including my life. I can't ask you to believe that and then sign a lie. She was quiet for a long time. Then, okay, Dad, okay. She went to bed. I stayed in my office. 3 more days until December 15th. 3 more days until Katie's deadline. 3 more days until everything changed. The next morning, I called Pastor Marcus, asked him to meet me at the church, early, before staff arrived. I'm not signing, I told him. I need you to help me figure out what comes next. We sat in my office. The prayer journal was still on my desk. My father's letter, the birth certificate form, still unsigned, yellow highlights glaring. The board won't support this, Marcus said gently. Todd will push for your removal. I know. Katie will make good on her threat. She'll announce from the stage, or worse. I know. Your daughter is watching. Your stepson. 2,800 congregants, 15,000 people on live stream. This will be public, messy, painful. I know. I looked at him, but what would I tell them, Marcus? If someone came to me with this exact situation, married, wife had an affair, demanding he sign false paternity papers, what would I tell them? Marcus smiled, sad but proud. You'd tell them to tell the truth. Then I have to practice what I preach. Even if it costs you everything, especially if it costs me everything, because that's what I'm teaching Abby. That truth matters more than comfort. That integrity matters more than reputation. Marcus was quiet. Then, you need to address the congregation before Katie can control the narrative, before rumors spread. You need to tell them yourself. I can't preach tomorrow. I can't stand in that pulpit and pretend everything is fine. Then don't pretend. Tell them the truth. That afternoon, I met with the sympathetic board members. Marcus, 2 others. We called an emergency session. Todd arrived furious. What is this about? I'm not signing the paternity form, I said, and I'm going to address the congregation this Sunday. Tell them the truth. Todd stood up. His face was red. This is career suicide, Daniel. Absolute suicide. I'm calling for a vote right now to remove you as senior pastor before you destroy this church. Todd, Marcus started. No! Todd was shouting now. I've put millions into this church. Millions. And he wants to blow it all up over his ego? Over his pride? The man's wife is pregnant. He signs a paper. That's it. But instead he wants to make it a spectacle? A scandal? I'm calling for a vote to support our pastor's integrity, Marcus said. He stood, looked around the table. Who's with me? 3 hands went up, including the 2 I hadn't expected. Todd stared. You're all insane. You're going to let him destroy everything we've built? We're not building anything if it's built on lies, one of the other elders said quietly. Todd grabbed his briefcase. Fine, I'm done. When this implodes, and it will, don't come asking for my money to fix it. He left. slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. The room was silent. "So," Marcus said finally, "Sunday morning, what are you going to say?" I spent 3 days writing that sermon, rewrote it 40 times. Each version felt wrong, too defensive, too angry, too self-pitying. Finally, I realized I didn't need a sermon. I needed a confession. Saturday night, I couldn't sleep. Abby came downstairs around midnight, found me at the kitchen table with coffee and my notes. "Dad, you okay?" "Nervous." She sat down across from me. "What are you going to say tomorrow?" "The truth, all of it. The affair, the pregnancy, the form I won't sign, everything." That's really brave, Dad. It's terrifying." "Can I come to the service? I want to be there." "You don't have to, sweetheart. It's going to be hard. People will..." "I want to be there," she said firmly. "I want to see this. I need to see this." Sunday morning came too fast. The sanctuary was packed, all 2,800 seats. The worship team on stage, minus Katie. She'd called in sick. Convenient. I stood backstage, watching the congregation settle, families, couples, singles, kids in the children's section, all of them expecting a normal Sunday service. All of them about to witness something they'd never forget. Pastor Marcus found me. "You ready?" "No." "Good, that means you're human." He squeezed my shoulder. "Go tell them the truth. They need to see what real courage looks like." The worship ended. Time for the sermon. I walked to the pulpit, same pulpit I'd stood behind for 12 years, but everything was different now. I looked out at the congregation, found Abby in the third row. She nodded at me. I put my notes aside, wouldn't need them. "Before I preach today," I said, "I need to confess something to you." The sanctuary went completely silent. You could hear the air conditioning hum. "My marriage is ending." My voice cracked. I didn't try to hide it. "My wife is pregnant with another man's child. I was asked, demanded actually, to sign documents claiming paternity, to lie on a legal form, to lie before God, to lie to all of you." Gasps rippled through the sanctuary. Someone in the back started crying. "I cannot do that." I paused, breathed, kept going. Not because I don't love my family, not because I want this, but because standing in this pulpit means every word from my mouth must be true, including my life. I cannot stand here and preach about integrity and then go home and sign a lie. Some of you will judge me. I looked out at faces I'd counseled, married, buried their loved ones, baptized their children. That's your right, but I would rather lose everything, my position, my reputation, your respect, than keep it through a lie. I found Abby again. She was crying, but she was nodding. "My daughter is watching. Your children are watching. And what I teach through my actions matters more than my comfort." My voice broke completely. What would I tell my congregation if they came to me with this exact situation? I asked myself that every day this week, and the answer was always the same: tell the truth. So I'm practicing what I preach. Silence, complete silence. Then in the front row, Mrs. Henderson stood up. She's 82, been at Grace Community since we had 200 members, since before I was pastor. She started clapping, slow, steady. Her husband stood, started clapping, then the row behind them, then the section, then half the sanctuary. Standing ovation, 2,800 people, all standing, some crying, some just there, supporting, witnessing. Katie stood up from the back. I hadn't seen her come in, and walked out the side door. The applause continued. I gripped the pulpit, tried to speak, couldn't, too overwhelmed. "Thank you," I finally managed. My voice was barely above a whisper. "Thank you for reminding me what grace really is. Not enabling lies, but supporting truth even when it's hard." The service that morning lasted 2 hours. People lined up afterward, hugging me, praying with me, telling me their own stories, how they'd faced impossible choices, how watching me choose truth gave them courage. 3 people told me they'd been hiding affairs. They confessed to their spouses that day, that week. 5 couples came in for counseling, real counseling, not pretending anymore. The live stream comments were split. Half supportive, half horrified. That's okay. Truth divides before it heals. Monday morning, Katie's attorney served me with divorce papers. I'd expected that. What I hadn't expected was the other envelope from Ryan Colton's label. They'd dropped him. Due to conduct unbecoming of our Christian values and brand standards. Apparently, someone at my church knew someone at his label. Word got around fast in the Christian music industry. Ryan called me 3 days later. His voice was tight. "You destroyed my career." "I told the truth. You destroyed your own career." "I'm going to fight this. You're going to take responsibility," I said, "because your label gave you an ultimatum. Take paternity or lose everything." That's what I heard. "So what's it going to be, Ryan? You going to be a coward or are you going to be a man?" He hung up. 2 weeks later, Jennifer told me Ryan had signed the paternity acknowledgement. His name on the form, legal, official, responsible for child support, for everything. Katie moved to Nashville a month after that. Lost her worship position. Her Instagram followers dropped from 48,000 to 6,000 in 6 weeks. Turns out people don't want spiritual advice from someone who lied that publicly. Ryan's label made him go through Christian counseling before they'd consider rehiring him. The counselor, I heard this third hand, told him he needed to make it right. All of it. They got married in February. Small ceremony. Private. The baby would have a father. The right father, not me. But the biological father taking responsibility. That's all I'd wanted. I took a 3-month sabbatical. The new board, after Todd left, insisted. "You need time to heal," Marcus said. "The church needs time to process. We'll bring in guest speakers. You rest." During those 3 months, I saw Abby change. The crisis that should have destroyed her faith actually refined it. "I get it now," she told me one afternoon. We were at a coffee shop, just the two of us. Faith isn't believing everything is perfect. It's trusting that truth matters more than comfort. She'd rewritten her college essay. New topic. What real integrity costs and why it's worth it. 3 schools that had already accepted her sent personal notes from admissions officers. One said, "This is the most powerful essay we've read in 5 years." Caleb moved out, went to live with his biological father. Turns out the guy had gotten sober and wanted a relationship. That hurt. But it was right. The kid needed his real dad. Before he left, Caleb came to my office. Stood in the doorway like that night when everything exploded. "I'm sorry I threw the USB drive at you," he said. "I deserved it." "No, you didn't. You were the only adult in that house who told the truth." He paused. "Thank you for showing me what that looks like." 3 months later, I came back to the pulpit, different man, same church. But not the same church somehow. Attendance was up, not down. 200 new members. People hungry for authenticity, for a church where the pastor practiced what he preached. My first sermon back was short, simple. "I'm not here because I'm perfect," I said. "I'm here because I'm forgiven, and because truth still matters. Grace without truth isn't grace. It's just enabling lies in Jesus' name. We don't do that here, not anymore." That afternoon, Abby came to my office. She was holding something wrapped in brown paper. "I made you something," she said, "with Mom's settlement money. She didn't want it. I did." She handed it to me. I unwrapped it. My father's resignation letter, the one from 1998, the one I'd kept hidden on my side wall for years. But it was different now. New frame, clean glass, no cracks, professional matting. And below my father's signature, below that shaky signature that I now knew was courage, not weakness, there was a new engraved plate. "Courage runs in our family. Grandpa would be proud. Love, Abby." I hung the old one in the youth room. She said, "Is that okay? I wanted the kids to see it. to know that standing for truth has been our family's legacy for 3 generations now. I couldn't speak, just held the frame, the old paper, my father's words, my daughter's blessing. "Dad," Abby said softly, "I'm proud to be a shepherd." That letter hangs in my office now, not hidden, front and center, where every person who comes in can see it. Grandpa's words from 1998, my choice in 2024, Abby's faith stronger because she saw real integrity, not perfect performance. Daniel and Abby redefined what family means. Not who you're born to, but who shows up when standing costs everything. If you've built your own chosen family, the people who stood with you when standing was hard, tell me about them in the comments. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you why truth matters even when it's expensive, subscribe. I tell stories about courage, about choosing integrity when everyone says to stay quiet, about what it costs and what it's worth. I'll see you in the next one. Last Sunday, Abby sang on the worship team, not because our family is perfect, but because she knows what real faith looks like. It looks like my father in 1998 typing that resignation letter with shaking hands. It looks like me in 2024 refusing to sign a lie even when everyone said to stay quiet. It looks like Abby in 2025 reframing shame into honor. Standing in this pulpit means every word from my mouth must be true, including my life. That hasn't changed. But now I know something I didn't before. Truth doesn't destroy us. It refines us. And sometimes the hardest sermons aren't the ones you preach from a stage. They're the ones you preach with your life, when everyone is watching and everything is at stake. That's the sermon I preached. That's the sermon my father preached. That's the sermon Abby will preach to her own children someday. Not with words, with courage, the kind that makes your hands shake when you sign your name, the kind that costs everything, the kind that's worth it.